How's it going, guys? We're going to be working on the Z again this week, and I really don't have any specific plans, so we're just going to jump back into it, see if we can get the wiring harness kind of reinstalled where it should be, and then see where we're going to go from there. I want to make a few modifications to the harness, so we will see how that turns out. But other than that, just a few updates. I have my transmission back from the transmission shop, and well, they didn't do anything. They just kept it for like 2 months and then told me it was unrepairable without even opening it up. I had to call them. So as for this, I'm going to see if I can find another shop here in town to look at it. I called, like 12 places, I think, before I found that last one, because nobody said that they worked on manual transmissions. It's all automatics these days for some reason. Regardless, either that's going to go out to another shop, or we're going to go ahead and try to pull it apart and see what is happening ourselves. Last time I looked at it, I really couldn't see anything, but there should be a decent amount of metal shavings this time, because the drain plug had a lot of metal shavings on it. So we'll go ahead and do something with that in a future episode. We also need to go ahead and pull the front suspension back off of this, so I can go ahead and do the front control arm bushings, and actually, I think that's the only thing left we have to do, is we have to pull those off and then paint them as well. So we'll probably go ahead, pull this back, see if we can lay out the wiring harness once again, and then probably pull the front suspension for its last time before it goes back in. So, I'm super excited, guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, guys, well, after sitting for probably a month and a half or so, the paint is looking really good. It feels really nice and hard now, so I am not too worried about scratching it or anything anymore. It is looking really, really nice. I was worried it would be a little bit too yellow. It seemed like when I put it down that it was yellow, but I think it was just the lighting, because out in the sun it looks like a really, really nice bright white. So I think the paint match is pretty decent on this one. So, I gotta go ahead. I think we're going to go ahead and pull the suspension first. So we're going to go ahead and jack it up, put some blocks underneath it here, and then get this front subframe back out. Hopefully the paint didn't cure to all this blue masking tape that I put on here, and hopefully the masking tape protected the paint well enough. But let's go ahead and pull this off and see how it looks. Alright, guys, we went ahead and got the subframe out. It's up on some jack stands, and it's looking pretty good. I think around here there's definitely a little bit of issues with the paint, but those are going to be under washers and nuts. And then see if we can come around over here, show you. Right there's a little scratch on the subframe, or I guess the frame rail. There's a tiny little one on this side. So overall, I think we came out pretty good. It's a little sad that there's a scratch right there, but it is not in a visible place. That's pretty much right where the motor mount goes, so not too big of an issue. Go ahead and put this subframe away, and unfortunately the sky is kind of turned on us, so hopefully it doesn't start getting too breezy or rainy, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and put some stuff away, and let's pick up from there. Alright, guys, well, it is a new day, and as you can see, I went ahead and removed a bunch of the suspension off of this front subframe right here. So we're going to go ahead and take this all apart and finish this up. What we need to do is, I'm debating on whether to paint the steering rack still or not. It's got that massive silver spot right there, but you can't see it too well. But if you remember, we painted all of this already. The knuckles and everything are still good for the coilovers. The only things we haven't done are these front control arms. Now, the reason that I haven't done these yet is because I wanted to replace these bushings. I don't know if you guys can see with the light. Come over this way. So these bushings are kind of like pressed in, molded in kind of stuff. So we're gonna have to cut these out. A lot of people melt them out, and then put in new polyurethane bushings. So I've never done this before. It is going to be an adventure for both of us. But I think I'm going to go ahead and just start hacking these up. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the ball joints and steering knuckles right here. These are all painted. I accidentally tore the boot on my new ball joint right here. And then this one also is not looking too great. So I might end up buying 2 new ball joints, which is kind of sad because, they're like $20 a piece or something. And I literally put no miles on them. But we'll just be more careful, I guess, with the next ones. But regardless, go ahead and take all this apart here, and we'll see if we can get these bushings out. I don't really have anything to burn them out with, so I'm really hoping that we can just kind of push them out, or cut them out, but we will have to see. So I'm going to grab the new Prothane kit that I have. That I've had it for like 4 years since I did all my sway wire links and everything, and we'll see if it gives any instructions in there, and then see if we can get these guys replaced. Alright guys, here is the Prothane kit. So you can see it comes with 3 components per side. We got this outer piece here, this inner bearing, and then a metal sleeve. This is the part number, if you're curious, 14-206. And they have a metal outer sleeve here, the urethane bushing, and then the metal sleeve here. So I believe the metal outer sleeve that they're talking about is the sleeve that you can see right there. So when we go ahead and push this out, we want to make sure to keep the outermost piece of metal there intact, because that is what we're going to use. I'm sure we could probably source a new piece, but why would we do that if we don't have to? So I'm going to go ahead and take this on a bench vise and see if I can start getting things to move. My bushings aren't completely cracked all around or anything. You can see some cracking. Maybe you can't. I can. But they're still in actually pretty good condition for what it is. So we might end up having to put this on hold and actually get something to melt these out, but we will see. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Alright guys, well after a solid 10 seconds of looking at those bushings, I determined that I do not have broken enough bushings to be able to push out, so they're going to have to be melted, so we're going to table that for another day. I'm going to turn my attention to the subframe right here. I don't remember how much I told you guys, but I had purchased the solid Delrin steering rack bushings from Past Power Innovations, and I realized that I had the wrong style clamp on this side. So all of them should have this band on one side here, but this other side has either this kind of skinny piece right here or something that's thick and goes across this whole thing. I believe the later models had the thick piece. Mine's an 86, remember. So I went ahead and purchased this, I don't know, Rycotic, or I don't know, whatever you say that is, polyurethane bushings. There's the part number right there if you're curious. And I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and use a mix of the polyurethane and the Delrin. I've heard from some people that the polyurethane is too squishy or it doesn't last a very long time. So I'm thinking if I leave Delrin right there and then the polyurethane on here on this side where this one doesn't fit, I'm hoping that we will go ahead and get a little bit more lifespan out of this. The way that this is set up is this bushing right here is actually grooved. See if you guys can see that. You can see there's metal on either side of this, so it can actually shift side to side. That one actually can shift side to side. So I don't know how much this is going to help. Ideally, I think you'd want this one to be the Delrin and that one to be the polyurethane, but I don't have that luxury. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the Delrin piece from around here, replace it with this polyurethane piece that actually does fit, and then hopefully, I don't remember if I told you guys, I kind of cross-threaded my threads here, so fingers crossed that they are still okay. I might go ahead and run a tap through them. Hopefully that'll clean out the threads and make it good again. But we're trying to go ahead and just fix this all up. I think I'm going to go ahead and paint this, so I'll take it around and give it a coat of something just in the middle section here. And then right there, of course, I don't know why that one little tip is not coated, because it's got a tiny little bit of rust on it now. But this looks like it's stainless steel actually. It doesn't look like it's rusting at all. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead, switch this out, and hopefully you guys will see a nice rack once it's done here. Alright guys, well, we're waiting for paint to dry. Let's go ahead and actually get some work done on the engine block. So, I've got some big stuff that's been happening. The exhaust manifold still isn't here yet, but hopefully it should be in the next few weeks. Fingers crossed on that one. I did go ahead and get an entire new gutted front-facing intake plenum. I'll show you that in just a bit here. So I believe it is off a Pathfinder or a Maxima, I can't remember, but it's front-facing. But you can't just put it on stock because the Maxima, or Pathfinder, I don't remember which one it is, I think it's a Maxima intake. It actually faces backwards like this in the Maxima. So when you flip it around and put it this way, it doesn't clear the front timing cover. So you have to have it extended. This one has already been done for me, so that's really, really nice. I'll go ahead and pull it out in just a little bit here, but let's go ahead and start stripping this guy down. I want to try to remove as much of this wiring harness as possible. I still think I'm going to go ahead and redo it, but we will see. I want to get this done sooner than later, but I think we might just have to go ahead and redo this harness just to make it as good as it can possibly be. Other than that, we'll go ahead and pull off the exhaust manifold. The new piece we're getting will connect from this crossover piece here, and then the side of the header, and it'll come up like this. So we're gonna need to remove this whole piece here. The turbo inlet and outlet for the oil, we'll go ahead and disconnect those. Hopefully we don't get too much oil everywhere. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling stuff off. I'm gonna hit the turbo first, because that just seems like fun. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Alright, so here's our trusty HX35. If you guys remember there, you had to put a adapter collar on this to get it to go to a standard like 2.5 inch output. This is our Spectre air filter. I think people have said that Spectre isn't really a great brand, so I might be looking into a different air filter in the future. I do want to run an air filter, but yeah, so, and then also I had to modify the piece down here. I had to cut this off. I also had to modify this bracket here. So if you guys have watched my video, I think I went over that on the turbo swap, but there was a lot of stuff that I did miss. So here is the engine without the turbo. You can see it says Nissan Japan, looks pretty cool. And then of course I had a pinhole leak, so I got a little bit of sealant around that bung right there. And then this is the piece that I really just hated the most, the oil drain. As you can see, it is pretty much perfectly flat. So the drain did not really drain all that well. So that was one of the factors that I used when I said I'm going to go ahead and do a top mount, because when the turbo is up here, you've got plenty of room to drain down into the oil pan down there. With a lower mount like I did, I was having a lot of issues getting that to drain properly. So that was that. I'm going to go ahead and remove the exhaust manifold now, just a bunch of studs and everything. Nothing too crazy. I am leaking a little bit from the oil feed right there. It's a Dash 4 AN, so I don't know if I have a cap for that. I'll see if I can put something over it so it doesn't just leak everywhere. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it. Nothing really else to look at right now. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this manifold. Alright, so we got the manifold off. It was pretty straightforward. You can see everything's looking pretty good. Might have had a small exhaust leak over here on cylinder 6. Yeah, I think this is 6. The only issue that I ran into is there's 2 studs on top of that piece back there and then 1 screw on the bottom. These screws, see if I can get a good close-up of this. You can see it almost looks like it's cross-threaded at the end. I don't know how that happened. It gave me some difficulty coming out. So if you ever have that happen, exhaust stuff you want to be really careful with because it's heat cycled, so you can break it pretty easily. And it also rusts pretty well. So I went ahead, I could unscrew it a little bit and then it would stop, you know. And so what I would do is I would spray it with some PB Blaster and then screw it in and then screw it out and then screw it in and then screw it out, and that just kind of helped rechase the threads kind of, and I eventually was able to get it out without any issues. So I definitely recommend doing that if you guys ever come across a stuck exhaust bolt. But you can see it's all back together right now. I'll probably just get a new bolt or hardware for that right there. So this is looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and probably shove some rags in here just so we don't get too much dust and debris in here, but this side of the engine is looking really good. I think we'll go ahead and pull that off eventually. I don't know if I have a cap for that big enough, so I might just leave it for now. But this side of the engine is looking good. You can see we have a leaky valve cover gasket, so that is going to be on the list of things to do. I also want to go ahead and put in a different kind of catch can system. So this one, show me a picture. I don't know what the previous owner did, but it is disgusting. It is gnarled. It is super gross. So I'm on the fence about getting just a new valve cover, but I think regardless, I'm going to go ahead and shave that off and then blank it. I believe this is steel, so I should be able to weld to it. Well, not me, a friend. But we should be able to go ahead and weld something on there to block it off. And then I'm thinking of putting it back kind of like right here or something. Another bung that I can go ahead and just put some AN lines on. We'll see. I don't really know. There is an art to PCV and catch can setups. If you put it in a wrong place, you can actually go ahead and ingest a lot of oil. And so the last thing I want to do is put it in a place that accidentally sucks in a lot of oil. So I'm going to go ahead and have to do a little bit of work. But I think back here on this flat surface will be just fine. Obviously you've got a lifter for the backmost rod here, or valve, but I think it will be okay. So I'll let you guys know what I end up doing on that. Obviously I'll show you guys the whole process, or at least, you know, the step-by-step, pulling it off and then getting it welded and putting it back. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead, put some stuff in here, and then let me go ahead and grab the new intake manifold, and we'll take a look at it and just kind of compare it to the current version. Alright guys, so here is the new intake manifold. As you can see, the top has been cut out and then hollowed out, and then a plate welded on top. So a lot of these manifolds have kind of baffles inside, and when you're going for higher horsepower, it's kind of restrictive. So cutting it out like this is really nice. Then you can see we've got these pickup points here if we wanted to put the original intake plenum cover top back on, which I kind of do, so I think that's going to be nice. We have, I think it's an S13 throttle body up in front, which I believe is slightly larger than the Z31. Why a 4-cylinder is larger than a 6-cylinder, couldn't tell you, but I believe it is a little bit larger by a couple millimeters. Nothing too crazy. This bracket right here, you can see it's kind of bent up. We might go ahead and either replace that or just try to repair that to hold the throttle cable a little bit better. And then I'm not sure what that port there is for. We'll go ahead and either plug it up or use it. And then we've got PCV. We'll go ahead and block that off. And then I believe this is idle air control or EGR, one of the two. Either way, I think it shares the same bolt pattern as the Z31 block-off plates. But if not, I'll make a new one. And if you guys are interested, you can go ahead and just hit me up and I can go ahead and get one for you as well. The other side, I believe, is all just mounting points. Yeah, nothing too crazy over here. So there is the new intake manifold, guys. It's looking pretty cool. I might go ahead and get it painted. I think like a satin black, like a matte black finish would look really nice. I just don't want something too flashy, standoffy. And the cast aluminum and then polished aluminum, I'm not really too big of a fan of the difference there. So I think having this all one like nice satin black would look pretty good. So we'll go ahead and see though. I don't want something that gets too dirty, so because I live in a very dusty area. Yeah, so that's that. Let's go ahead and take one last look at the other intake manifold. So as you can see, we're going to go ahead and need, this is a vacuum port here. I have it doing my blow-off valve currently. And then we also have a fuel pressure regulator. It was somewhere, I think it came back to here. I think this was the fuel pressure regulator reference. We're going to go ahead and need to drill a hole for, actually, I wonder if this would fit in that hole on the other one. This is the intake air temperature sensor. This one is really nicely in the pathway of flow. The other one, it kind of looked a little off to the side. So we will figure something out with that. You're only going to use an intake air temperature sensor if you're doing a MAP sensor for your fueling. So traditional engines use MAF sensors, mass air flow. And then I am running a manifold air pressure. So by taking the pressure that is inside the intake manifold as well as the temperature of that air, you can actually determine how much air is in it and then use your fueling based off of that. That's really nicely because it adapts to atmospheric changes. And then also if you have a boost leak, say I blew off a coupler, which I have done a couple times, it still runs the same. You know, a mass airflow sensor would see you just absolutely going through air with a turbo, but since it's all leaking out through a coupler, you wouldn't actually be seeing that, so it would be way over fueling. So using a MAP sensor is actually really nice because as long as your line to the MAP sensor stays connected properly, you get accurate fueling all the time. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it, guys. We definitely got a lot of work done this weekend. I'm super happy. I love getting down to this nitty-gritty part here. I have definitely been a little slacking on wanting to do this work, mainly because I'm waiting for parts and it's just kind of discouraging. But actually getting all this hands-on work, it's super exciting for me. I really enjoy it. So I think we're going to go ahead and be doing a lot more of this in the next couple weeks, just trying to tear this engine down, doing valve cover gaskets, trying to figure out the PCV, catch can system. I think all of that is going to come really nicely. I think it's going to be really cool. I believe next week we're going to do a timing belt video. So I have a new Blue Gates racing belt. I'm going to go ahead and replace my current one. I've only got, you know, maybe 7,000-8,000 miles on the current one, but I want to go ahead and just do it, A, to make a better video than the last ones that I made, and then B, as well, just because I want you guys to see all the work that's going into this final build series. So I'm super excited for this, guys. I've got a lot of other things in the works. Fingers crossed on those, that those come to fruition a little bit sooner than later, because they are pretty cool, and I hate not being able to tell you guys about them. But yeah, so I think I'm going to leave this intake manifold on for now. I don't want to go ahead and when I pull this off, I'm going to have to redo a lot of like the injector wiring and stuff, so that might be something that is coming up sooner than later as well. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions or comments about any of this video, hopefully we can get a lot more done next week. Fingers crossed that this starts speeding up as parts start coming in. I've been promised my bumper and hood for the last couple weeks now, so fingers crossed that those are coming in. I've seen other people get them, so I know it's not just a myth, but I am really looking forward to that. So drop a comment down below, guys, if you have any questions, and I will see you guys later, and I hope you have a great week.